All set? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are attending the TriBoard meeting of March 10th, 2026. We are here at the Bellata Meeting Room at Town Hall. And would you all please stand at this point in time, address the flag, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. I assume you've all been following along, that you know that the TriBoard is a combination of the Select Board, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee. And they gather together to work on issues of the budget. So in accordance with the requirements of the Open Town Meeting Law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel, on Facebook Live, on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube after the meeting. Additionally, you should be advised, as you have in the announcements, that there is a Zoom platform as a host for this hybrid meeting. At this meeting, it will be held in person at the location provided, which I already told you is the Bellata Meeting Room. Members of the public are welcome to attend. I think we have a few this evening. And they're also welcome to attend remotely in the link that has been provided. It is a courtesy to provide the link to the public, but the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if there are technical problems that interrupt the virtual broadcast. To watch remotely from a computer, the links are provided in the posting. The agenda lists all the topics that may be discussed at the meeting and those that are reasonably anticipated by the chair. And I'm not the chair, but by the moderator. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion as permitted by the open meeting law. So at this point in time, I would ask each committee to bring their committee to order. I'll start with the schools.
We have everyone here, so I'd like to call the school committee to order. No second needed?
All right, well then you're in order.
And I'll call the finance committee meeting to order.
Thank you.
And I will call the select board to order.
Okay, excellent. So we have everybody here. And so at this point in time on the agenda, I want to make sure that you know that we're going to start with public comment, which is what's on the agenda. But I also know that our town council is at another meeting. He's going to try to Zoom in at some point in time. So we may have questions for him as this conversation evolves. And I may take him out of order at that point in time just to accommodate him. So if there's anybody from the public that's here, you can find your way over to the podium over here, introduce yourself, where you live, and your name, and give us any comments that you have. Go ahead. Somebody has to start.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kammer. I live at 304 Lancaster Ave. I am here not as a member of another board, although I am on that board. I'm speaking just for myself. I moved to this town about 13 years ago, and what I have noted is that we constantly have budget problems. It's not new to this year. It has been ever since I moved in, and I talked to Jack Rodequins about a tree that I needed to cut down that was a street tree because it was going to fall in my garage. And I paid for that tree to go down, so it didn't fall in my garage. And he said, we don't have the money to cut it down. So this is not new. I am glad to see that we have a TriBoard thinking about it as a whole group. Because over the years, I've seen us do things like cut the librarian from the primary school. That happened when my daughter was in kindergarten. Hasn't impacted her because I took her out of the Lunenburg schools for a very long time so that she was comfortable, so that she was an avid learner and very competent. And it was a good choice for me at the time, although I regret having to do that because it separated me from the community. And so, with that in mind, I have a couple of things to say. We need fire. We need our fourth shift. We've needed it for years. We need those positions that our town manager is asking for, and I think our town manager probably should have asked for more. Sorry. I don't know where she is. Yeah. I think there are other things that our town probably really needs that you didn't put in that budget. And I want to address some things I heard, actually, both at the school committee meeting and then in my car listening to the finance committee. There was a discussion about taking and separating the override because of the belief that some departments might be asking for too much. And I think that is against community entirely. And that has been the problem in our town since I have been here. Specifically, I heard that the school is asking for too much. And I have to say, as a parent, I have failed to have 2.7 kids in my house. So I am not benefiting very much from my high taxes, which I don't think are that high, but they're higher than several people who live on lakes. 50% of Lunenburg students are not meeting literacy targets. That is asking to restore positions so that people can read is not an unreasonable ask. Just like it's not unreasonable to ask to have all of our shifts covered in fire. The school's asking for an interventionist for reading and math so our kids can do work. Maybe take care of you when you get older. Asking for a kindergarten professional, a world language teacher. That might help world peace. Teacher and a paraprofessional for bridge, so we're not sending these students out of district, adding to our budgetary problems. An English teacher, so people can continue their literacy, and a part-time music teacher, because our high school is getting dangerously close to not having enough time on learning because we have a bunch of study halls. That's a problem. It's not about being in a small town and recognizing that you have to limit choices and make choices and tough choices. It's about meeting state standards, basic state standards. Time on learning is a state standard. Asking for an assistant principal, a literacy coach, and an assistant business manager so the work actually gets done right and there are no budgetary mistakes makes solid sense to me. As does everything I saw in the town manager's budget on the town side. And I just said it, town side, school side. That's a real problem, that is a part of my vocabulary now, of the way I look at things, because it's a whole town. The schools are a part of it, our fire is a part of it, our stormwater is a part of it, and if we're planning to do overrides in little individual bunches, I will urge everybody to vote against all of them until we go back and we do it right and have a full override that accommodates each and every part of our town. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Moderator, could I ask a question?
You want to ask her a question?
No, I want to ask you a question.
Me a question.
Could we have everyone mute the mics? There's just some feedback, unless you're talking, just because there's so many people in the room.
And you because your computer sounds too?
Yeah, if anyone's on the computer, just making sure your computers are muted as well.
Oh, those ones, they have to hold them.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's just ours up here.
Okay? I'm not used to the mics where you have to hold the button. So does that work better? That's worse. That's off, right. Okay. So if you want to talk to your neighbor, you better push the button. Okay, anybody else from the public comment, please? She was excellent, hard to follow. Anybody else? Okay, anybody on Zoom that has public comment? No? Okay. All right, so we're going to get into the budget at this point in time. I believe we're talking about whether or not there should be and what kind, how it would look for a Proposition 2.5 override. So I'll open up the floor at this point in time. Anybody wants to take the lead, any of the committees, to start the conversation? Or I could call up people. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
I think that
You need to turn on. There we go.
Okay.
I think that
You're Anthony Scalabrini.
yes, I'm the chair of the school committee. Anthony Scalabrini Jr. Some people know my dad.
Not so bad. I like it.
Yeah. That's good. I think that one of the things that I want to convey to the group is that when we were on school committee and we passed the first override, it worked and it provided us with some sense of relief. But I look back on it and think that maybe we should have asked for more. And the reason I say that is because it's possible that we could have been in a position to ask for less now. And I think that looking through how the town has spent money in the past, we have always preferred to save a penny today, even if it means we have to spend a dime tomorrow. And the perfect case in point is the heating and air conditioning, or the air conditioning at the primary school. That building was designed and built according to the plans with air conditioning in mind. And at the end of the day, right before it was finished, the town decided not to put it in. And the costs that we have incurred to put it in after the fact in a much smaller amount were astronomically expensive. And obviously that's because, the time value of money, but it's also because trying to fix things after they break is always more expensive than going the right way the first time. And so I would encourage everybody to think about passing an override that gets us through to 2028. I think if you look at the economic numbers over the last couple of months, it is clear that we are either in a recession or about to be in a recession. If you look at the inflationary numbers, we have been under 2.5% only twice since, I want to say 2018. On a monthly basis, the rate of inflation has been at or above 2.5% only twice. And it was 2.4% those two times. The last thing I'll point out is that things aren't going to get better. While we were preparing for this meeting, Dr. Fortuna informed the school committee that our entitlement grants from the federal government had been cut by, about $100,000.
123,000.
So this is a problem that is in part made by forces in our state, but largely it's the ship in Washington that sets the rate of inflation that helps mitigate bumps in the economy. And those people aren't doing their job. We should not count on them ever doing their job, and we have to solve this problem ourselves. So I would encourage people to look at what happened with the school committee when we passed our override 2 years ago and think about asking for a large number now so that we do not have to ask for a medium-sized number now and a large number in 2 years. Because we're going to be in this situation immediately if we ask for just what we need. This is not a problem that will go away in a year. And so we've got to think about it long-term, down the line, over and over again.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay. So Sarah mentioned the FinCom meeting, and I was probably one that talked a lot about it. And I'm going to explain what I explained there, so it's part of the record of this committee. In 2012, when the operation override failed, my son was going to sophomore and my daughter was a freshman at the high school. And we did ask for a correction. It was from both, from all the departments of the town, including at the time something like, creating a reserve fund so that we wouldn't run into that. And that override failed by a vote of 2-1. And the override that passed a couple years ago in FY25, it was a small override. It was, it was very specific to saving some positions that were critical. And it passed only by an extra 200 votes. And there was no opposition to that override. And that's why I think it was successful. What I said in the FinCom meeting, which is still my thinking now, is I would like us to see an override. First of all, let me classify it this way. If we need an override to level service, I am asking for data. I just got a report today. I'm still going to talk with the town manager. I'm not there yet. I don't think we have reviewed everything. I'm sure the town manager is there, but I'm not there. I have my own process. But if we need an override to maintain level services, I think that's a much easier sell to the public. And I do believe that anything we ask, and maybe anything that's above level of service is another package that we're asking the voters. What I worry about it, and this is my real concern, is that we will not give the voters that option. It will fail, and it will be devastating. It will be devastating to the schools, to the fire department, to everything, just as it was in 2012. The opening Fridays for the library happened in 2012. We just started opening the library again on Fridays 2 years ago. It was so dramatic. Just as a reminder, all town employees lost 10% of their income. They had to give up 4 hours, and they got their salaries cut. So there was a lot of reasons for passing that override, and still it was a 2-to-1. So what I'm worried about it is us, failing to putting something in front of the voters that will pass, and then having to deal with the consequences. And I think it's very risky to do that. I think we need to make sure we are providing the services that we have now. And that's the part that I feel like it's playing Russian roulette. We should be looking to put something forward that we know has the best chances of passing for the sake of the students, of the fire department, of everyone. Because if it doesn't pass, it's going to be on you if it doesn't pass. So anyway.
Well, that's a great starting off point, because we have two very divergent opinions. One, go big and not have to come back right away, and one, make sure that the number is the least palatable number that can be. So go right ahead, Amanda, and then I'll go down the room. Go ahead.
Mr. Murphy. Shannon and I, his daughter, were good friends. Mandy Gilman, a member of the school committee. Though I guess I agree with everything Tony said, but I want to make a specific point today that we need to decide what we are doing. As someone who works in political campaigns, did this her entire life, we are currently waving in the wind 6 weeks before people are voting on this. We don't have a cuts budget. We don't have a list of things that aren't going to happen. Nobody is paying attention. And that's what I keep hearing, nobody's paying attention. It's because we have not made the stark reality of what not passing an override truly means. My second thing is, many people at this table, not everyone, 2 years ago told me the last override wasn't going to pass. And the reason it passed is not just me, but a strong group of parents who spent a lot of time talking to other parents. Parents who don't come and vote regularly in these types of elections. Brian was there. There was other people there. Emily was involved. Laura, Anna. And there were a lot of people who we spent a lot of time standing in the pickup line at Turkey Hill because it's not on school property, handing out flyers, walking around, talking to people at soccer games, right? And if we don't decide what we're doing, nothing is going to pass. And I think it's really, really, really bad to act like this isn't a 50-50 shot with any number. Literally any number is a 50-50 shot. What we're doing is making it worse because we're not doing any education. I think personally, people are not going to vote based on a $100 difference in their yearly tax bill. They're going to vote because it is real to them what is going to be cut. It is real to them that the fire department isn't going to be able to show up. It's real to them that there will be one less, I heard possibly there could be one less, understandably, school resource officer. There may be no high school sports. We haven't decided any of this all yet, but this is all a complete reality if we don't pass any type of override. This is what we're facing. And I am getting more and more scared that we spend so much time talking around each other and talking about this in a way that nobody agrees, that we are losing our opportunity to get anything passed at all. So that's my say. So I think we need to decide, in the next week, what number we're going with.
How about tonight?
Tonight. I am fine deciding tonight. Because we cannot keep kicking this can down the road. And I believe we should be at $3 million. The difference between $2 million and $3 million is $200 a year for a person in an average household. So that's what I believe, and that would give the schools, close to more than half of it. I get it, but we cut a lot of positions last year. Other parts of this town have not expanded, but they did not cut the amount of positions that the school did. And 50% of our kids are not reading at grade level. 50%. That's it, sorry.
Very good. Going down the table, who's next? Amanda?
So I would start by saying
And you are?
I am Amanda Moore, and I am the vice chair of the select board.
Thank you, Amanda Moore.
You're welcome. I want to say I completely agree with everything that you just said, Mandy. I think that we are really running out of runway, which I know we all wanted to avoid this. Things just happen, right? I don't think anyone here doesn't want to advocate for strong schools and strong town services, and I hope we can keep this conversation based on it's not town versus schools. The challenge here isn't that we're competing departments, the challenge is the structural math, and there is a huge gap that we have to close. Us as a town over the years aside from this override that we haven't done our job to grow with, the limitations of Proposition 2.5, and I don't think having that conversation is going to get us anywhere tonight. I think we all kind of know that we can't solve that right now. But I think our job is to present choices to the community, whatever those choices are. Me personally, I have a bit of a different feeling than Mandy does. I've gone back and forth many, many times on what this looks like. I think the first thing that we need, I propose 3 levels. The first thing that we need is what I'm calling our balanced cut budget, meaning we have to I think it's responsible that we have a balanced budget on town meeting floor. I think that is what the town needs to hear. That is absolute worst case scenario. That is cuts across the board, town and school, and I would be vehemently against that. But I think we need people to understand what that looks like how bad it actually is. Where I think I differ from you is that I would like to see both a core services override, which it would be a combination of the school and the town making some cuts and not getting everything that we want, as well as the school. And then the level 3 I would like to see is a restoration, everything that the school wants, everything that the town wants. And I've gone back and forth whether I think that's a good idea or not. I am concerned, based on the conversations I've had in the community, that we won't have support for that larger number. I could be swayed in our conversations tonight, but that is my fear. So I fully think that we need an override. I would love it to be that full amount. I think we need to do some strategic cutting to get to where I think personally it might pass.
All right.
Do you have a number in mind? Not to put you on the spot, but I think we need to talk brass tacks.
No, I completely agree. So
It's like, I could be persuaded as well, but I just think we need to talk about numbers.
Part of the problem-
Sitting here not talking about
I completely agree with you. And I can tell you that I have gone through our budget line by line.
Yeah.
We as a board have not met to go through our budget line by line because of just the way that these things have unfolded.
Yeah. It's just hard because, right, we need.
So we have scheduled additional budget workshop meetings. We met twice this week, we're meeting twice next week, and twice the week after. So we know that we are on a time crunch and we need this number. Do I feel comfortable telling you I know what that number is right now? No. I know what I personally would do, but I don't think we can get into, line by line cuts here. I think we maybe could have a discussion on what we all think that could look like. Do I have an opinion right now? No.
Yeah, and I mean total number. I didn't mean like the select board number because obviously like that. I mean total number for the entire override. This is not me saying school versus town. This is just me saying, do you have in your head, we go to 4 million, that's $800 a year for the average household. This is numbers, right? $800 per year is $200 per tax bill. Right? So that's the average house would pay $200 more tax bill if we went 4 million.
I don't actually know what that
I think if we were at 3,
Yeah, 'cause I Googled, I looked it up on the DOR website, and there's the average household, it's $636, I think, if we went with 3 million.
for the average tax bill.
it's 10% over property tax, so that doesn't seem to make sense, but.
It's the DOR website, that's what it says, $636 per year.
It's maybe per quarter.
No, that's per, yeah, it's per year.
All right, well, let's let Jen look at those numbers.
If I went with 3 million, I think it was $636 for the average household over the year.
So the average single-family household price in the town of Lunenburg so that you can compare it against your average.
Microphone.
Thank you. The average single-family home in Lunenburg, so that you can compare it to your home, which we all do naturally, is $517,000, and it's $517,296. The current tax bill, the FY26 current bill, is $7,444. The impact of a $3 million override is an additional $636.27 on the $517,296.
Give me that number again, 6?
636.27.
And it's based on FY26.
This is based on FY26, so that doesn't include the
2.5.
benefit of 2.5 to FY27. That's on FY26.
So it's 2.5 plus that.
You'd add your 2.5 first. This is based, if you passed an override within this current fiscal year,
Right.
that's what the impact would be.
No, it's, I just want to, like, there is another number that people will see on their bill
There,
more than the 636,
Because-
because it'll be 2.5 plus.
and it's not 2.5 on their bill, it's 2.5
Exactly.
on the levy.
It's not 2.5 on everybody's bill, it's 2.5.
I fully
across
understand
the-
that, but we're talking about average, so it's fair to talk about average.
Okay, great. So, and I'll get to you in a second, Laura. I did say I'd go down the table, Renee.
Sorry, I didn't mean to,
But-
I
Yep.
want to be here all night. You can't get
It's okay.
We live here now.
I know,
We live here now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sorry.
but it's okay. But it's nice. So we've had one proposal go big. We've had one proposal say, keep it moderate, or keep it close, less. And so we've also had, let's have some choices. So that's 3 different ways of going about it, which we could be here till 2 in the morning. But go ahead, Renee.
All right.
Identify yourself. Thank you.
Oh, Renee Emke, member of Select Board. So I have a few points to address some comments that have already come up. One is, I do think that we need to bring a balanced budget to town meeting, as ugly as it may be. I don't necessarily want to use it as a, fear force into people passing an override. That's not the intention, but that's the reality. People need to see what the cuts, services, personnel, whatever, it will be ugly. They need to see it. Secondly, I think I've talked to a few people, offline about this in recent days. I do support right now, this is where my thinking is a tiered override, meaning 2 options, because I don't want to overcomplicate it for the public. And the way I'm thinking of it right now is a level service with a little more, because I think level service for schools and for town still leaves critical gaps. So I think there has to be level service plus a little dash of salt in there, okay? And then think of it as a plus and a premium, if you remember the days of unleaded regular plus premium gas. I am not going to attempt to predict the public's position on this at all. I didn't before, and I will not now. It is a total wild card. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone values different things. Their priorities are different. What I am confident is that we cannot just pick a number and budget to it. That won't fly. We have to justify the number we're asking for. We have to be responsible about and transparent about how we arrived at whatever override number it is. And so I think it's premature tonight to talk numbers. I don't want to talk numbers tonight. As Amanda mentioned, we have a workshop for the Select Board Monday the 16th, Monday the 23rd, to go line by line to arrive at, I sent Jen comments this weekend on the spreadsheet you presented to FinCom. I don't even know. It was last week. I don't know. That's already out of date. Jen found adjusted revenues by like 175,000.
Yes.
So that's how fast things are moving. But nonetheless, so we will be going line by line to talk about the ugly balanced budget and whatever our plus and premium could look like. That's my point. And I believe the schools plans to do the same thing. And that's how we arrive at the override number, right? So it's not, we're not just pulling a number out of thin air because, this feels good. I'm comfortable 4 million, that gives us enough buffer. The other thing I'm concerned about is long-term. Tony brought this up, budget through 2028. Honestly, I don't know how to do that. Short of just, do we assume 9% health insurance increase every year? We know, we have some knowns. We have the contractual obligations. We know that. Monty Tech, we can guess that's because that's another cost driver. But there's so many unknowns. One of the questions I had for Adam that I sent was about, passing an override above and not taxing to that limit, building our levy capacity. Jen has experience in a town or heard of a town where that wasn't successful. That is a strategy. I don't know if that's a good or a bad strategy, but I can't pass the red face test. If someone were to ask me, is this number going to carry us through 2028? I'd be lying if I said yes. I can't say yes or no. I don't know. I don't know what that number could be. And the best I can do is plan for the knowns, which may not be enough. So I think I hit on everything. So I know, Mandy, you want a number tonight. I look back, we sat here, Select Board and School Committee sat in this very room around this table a year ago tomorrow. And we agreed, Tony, do you remember? Yes. We agreed we were going to go together an override this year. And that is still at least my intent. We just need to settle on the number. And I think at the end of this workshop, we can come up with that number. So I think...
Can I?
Give me a minute.
Sorry.
So you're telling me that by the end of March, you think the Select Board would be in a position to...
You guys, I mean, I'm not going to speak for the whole board. I mean, you guys...
No, I'm just asking you, your thoughts on that.
That is my goal.
You have
Yes.
a budget meeting on the 16th, another one on the 26th.
To go line by line.
The following Tuesday is the 30th, so that would be the end of March. You perceivably would be ready to at least have a number. Okay.
I mean,
all right.
I'm willing to... I spent my Saturday looking at the budget, and it's already out of date.
So let me ask the schools, does that sound like a time frame when you guys could be ready with a number?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like we could be ready today.
We're going to...
3 budgets, 3 numbers.
Yeah, I think we could be ready.
We're going to present our, not, as I called it last time, the shoot your favorite puppies budget, but the cuts budget on the 18th, correct?
So that balanced budget, though, we have a number from Jen, right? We have to meet. I think you'd said that, but that's what we were waiting for that. So we have a number now.
You've had that for weeks.
It just changed a little bit.
You've had that for weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so-
I mean, you are adjusting the revenues, like you,
So they've had the balanced budget number for several weeks. The revenues were adjusted today by $100,000 on investment income and then $75,000 on motor vehicle excise tax. So the superintendent and Chris got that revision today, but they weren't waiting for a revision. It's not as if, there wasn't a promise that there was something else coming that they were waiting for. They had the number.
Okay, so we haven't, as a board, looked at it because the superintendent had some concerns about our staff finding out where the cuts were, which I have publicly said I'm concerned about because if we don't actually have a list, so we respectfully disagree a little on that, but that's fine. I guess the thing I would like to say, Renee, I understand where you're coming from because I don't want to just pick a random number, right? And I also I don't think we can have it all. What we need and what we want and making it a 3-year projection, I just don't think that's like a needle that can't be thread, in my opinion. But one thing is, it would be wonderful if the select board could say in some capacity, we are planning for an override and plan to put it on the ballot and on the, but like in a public statement. Like maybe you've said it in your meetings, but maybe we could start like the folks who want to do some campaign work, I think I just feel like we have to, if we don't have a number, we have to do something to get community members engaged because, as I've said, it is 50-50. Any number is going to pass, so we have to educate people. and we
Yeah,
can't
I
wait
agree.
3 weeks.
So I know I've said publicly, we haven't taken a formal vote on the select
Yeah.
board, but said like, and I know it's been talked about at school committee too, you know, even a level service requires an override. Like, guys, override is coming. Pay attention. Public, watch TriBoard recordings. Pay attention, dial in, ask questions, become engaged. I am concerned. I've shared this with the town manager
Yep.
and the superintendent, the number of people who came to the fire presentation. I mean, it was a handful of people.
It's because people don't engage in government, they need politics to get them engaged.
Okay, let me bring this back.
I mean, really, I think we need to say what the,
I'm going to sit next to Amanda next time.
sorry, you know what, I could not come, but
You can't call her Amanda. I'm Amanda. She's Mandy. I'm like, what did I do?
I just, you know, I mean, many of you
Okay,
lived through this
all right,
with me
all
2
right.
years ago. I think
don't
I've
have
been
a-
pretty quiet,
I don't-
okay? Compared to what I was a
I
few
don't have
years
a
ago.
gavel. This is,
So,
I'm out of
right?
place.
You agree with that? I've been really, really
I
patient.
said I'd get to Laura. but
Mr. Town Moderator, we lost audio on the Zoom to the, on the Facebook to the booth. Getting notified.
Okay, well, I'd like to have the audio.
You guys are
Just the Facebook audio?
So let's just hold for a minute, because I think it's important that we have the audio so people can hear what we're talking about. Because if we talk amongst ourselves, that's not getting the message out, as Mandy said. And I can pick on you, Mandy, because I've known you for so long.
Yeah.
To the commenter that is on Facebook, can you tell me if you have audio again?
Oh, there is.
Okay. We're good to go.
Okay, good. So I promised Laura that I would give her
Yes.
the floor next.
Sorry.
A lot of what I wanted to say gets said, which is good. I think that we're stronger together. We're one unit, we're one town. We are going through the exact same issues with budget shortages. We're going to quibble over numbers, but we are in this together. So I absolutely think it should be one unified override. I might be able to be talked into a tiered one, but I think people are going to choose the lowest number. But we are so much stronger together with our ask because there's a myriad of needs. And as long as all of our asks are reasonable, it's so much more likely to pass if we do it together. I do think that the schools, personally, and I said this when we had our restoration budget, I think that it's extremely conservative. I don't know that we're asking for enough, to be honest. I think it was very conservative. We're not restoring all the positions that were cut last year that we had to cut while waiting for action on an override. And we have lived this year, this school year, with the results of those cuts, and we are seeing what happened to our students. And I know I said this going into FY25, I said this going into FY26, so you're all probably sick of hearing it. Kids are in first grade once, they're in kindergarten once, they learn to read once. When we miss those windows, it affects them for the rest of their lives. So we are doing harm when we wait or when we take half measures and do the absolute bare minimum in hopes that it's more likely to pass. I'm not sure how much more we can come down, but I am absolutely sure that we should do one unified override and not separate it out into schools and fire and piecemeal and let people check off what they want to support.
But if I heard you, you said you could live with a tiered.
I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know if I'm in the majority there.
Okay.
I'll support what we do. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that it's easier for people to make a decision yes or no than deal with a gradient.
Okay. So, Chris, I wanted to ask the Finance Committee, introduce yourself, and then tell me about this idea that I'm kind of pushing, that maybe we could come up with a number by the end of March. What is Finance? What do you say?
So Chris Menard, Chair of the Finance Committee. I don't think we can walk out of here with a number tonight, by the end of March, maybe. But I do think what we should walk out of here with is maybe even taking a vote as the 17 minus whoever wasn't able to come, what our position is on the structure of the override. And the reason I think that's important is ultimately, we need warrant articles, and we're going to need, ballot questions related to this. And I think this group should be able to come to a position on 1 override, 2 overrides, 3 overrides, 1 year, or multi-year. And I think predominantly I hear that most folks think it should be 1 year, not go for excess levy capacity. I do think we've gotten really good data this year. I trust the data this year. I don't know that I trusted the data last year. So I think we're in a good position that at least we're working off of facts. I do think we need to look at revenues, continue to look at revenues. What does that help us with? That if we take a less conservative estimate on receipts, the override number could be a little lower. With the ramifications of that is that free cash in the future, may be lower and other sorts of things. I do think we probably should have a level service budget as an override, because we do know that we're fairly certain, right? Very certain that there's going to be a gap between the level service budget and the balanced budget. And we do not want to go into 1/12 budgeting. I don't really know the mechanisms for that, but it sounds like it's really horrible.
So you mean a balanced budget, not a level services?
So let me show a diagram, just because
I want to make sure I'm clear on your.
I'm going to share something that I put together just so that we're all using the same language. And if I have it slightly wrong, we can fix it. Yeah, I think so.
All right, did you print out more copies of that, Chris?
I didn't print copies.
All right, so Amanda, this is my copy, but some of the edge got cut off. So I don't know if you can see any of that.
Maybe Chris can send that to the town manager, she can print it here.
Or you can email to us.
So, because I think they need to see it, Chris.
Okay, so it is up on the screen. Hopefully maybe even if you can't read it, I can read it to you, but you can see the colors. So on the left-hand side, there's a fiscal 26 budget. That's kind of our starting place. I did note on that the funding line associated with the operating budget, we had the one-time free cash to the schools. So we were kind of over budget last year anyways. We just used a non-preferred mechanism to get to the budget that the school has to start with. What A represents is the funding line going up. So this is revenue projections, and it's just that, it's projections. We take the best estimate, town manager takes the best estimate based on the fiscal situation, prior years, what's going on where our revenues come from. And if you go back, I think 2 meetings ago on Finance Committee, Jen, showed this in a lot of detail how we arrived at it. But property tax is the biggest source of that, $36.3 million. Ultimately, that gets divided by your assessed value and tax rates and turns into what you pay. So that's what we're really kind of talking about on an override. We have things like local receipts. We're looking at potentially going into enterprise funds for a source of funding. The next 4 lines are just what comes from the town. It's affectionately known as the cherry sheet because it used to be printed, I think, in red.
Cherry red pepper.
Cherry red peppers. The assessors have an overlay account, which kind of takes money from the projections, if you will, to make sure that abatements can be made if people have abatements. With some of the senior funding that went on, the potential write-offs, I think they took a fairly conservative position on that, but they did vote for a $260,000 assessor's overlay. And then finally, a levy appropriated to the capital plan. So there is money going to the capital plan, best practice. So what does that do when you start to move into the right-hand column here, is you see the funding line cannot meet the operations and non-operations fiscal '27 level service budget, which is in green. So what does that mean? It means that if we pass a balanced budget, meaning to the funding line, there are services that will need to be cut. And there's services that will need to be cut on the school side and on the town side. And I think we've got to spend a lot of time understanding what that number is. But at a minimum, we have always strived to have at least level services through this. What I depicted in red, in purple, were just, there's additional services that are in here. Fourth shift fire, some staffing issues like a new assistant town manager. There's other things that I didn't list out, but we should probably talk about all of them. And then on the school side, it's the school restoration budget, which is primarily driven by the goal of literacy. And maybe there's a couple others that I just put, an XYZ on. So my opinion is we need to make sure that we've pulled all the levers we can to make sure that we're going in with a not overly conservative, but not optimistic plan into town meeting. We should definitely have a balanced budget, like I said. And now what we're talking about is, does C, D, and E get lumped into one Hail Mary pass? So that if it doesn't pass the ballot and town meeting, we're in pretty dire straits. Do we put in two, which is kind of C, and maybe lump together D and E? I do not like pitting the schools against the town. I think that both should have their what they believe as their position for what's needed for the budget, and the services that this town require, and should lump it together with D and E. So if I had, I guess what I'm saying is that my thought is that we should probably have at least two override positions. I think we should walk out of this meeting with a position as to, are we going forward with an override or overrides? Is it one? Is it two? Is it three? And then we can start to talk about the details of the budgets through the remainder of the month. I think, I was not at the last Finance Committee meeting. I was on travel, but I think Anna laid out a very well thought out process that kind of aligns with this. I hope it's reflective of what you were talking about and what we were talking about. But I think the Finance Committee is probably going to view budgets in this way. And then, it just comes to, do we want to pull levers, or do we want to go for a D and E as to, what we think should be in there. But I guess that's my thoughts, and I think.
Just one second.
Sure.
So, did you tell me that you could have a number by the end of March? Finance.
Well, I know, ultimately, it's what Jen can
Well,
pull off.
Jen's nodding. So Jennifer, can we have a number by the end of March?
So I think
Mandy
that-
raises the point that, while we're still kicking around, what
you mean
it's going to be,
post.
we really need to start
So
focus on that.
So I think that one of, and I don't want to speak for the superintendent, but I'll certainly speak for myself. One of the frustrations here is that you have our numbers. You have our balanced budget numbers, and you have our request numbers. And so what we need to hear is whether those numbers are what the override numbers are. Is that what the override is? Because we will balance to what the objectives are. And so we know our balanced budget number. We just have to present what those cuts are. We know what our asks are. We really need to be reacting to you, in my opinion. I don't want to speak for you, sorry.
I agree.
I feel like we have our school numbers.
I think what.
Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you. I think what I heard from Chris, Amanda, and Renee, which is similar to what I said, is, one of you said it, the level service with some sprinkling of salt. Yeah. I from the people that spoke, I think we have said that we want to which was what I laid out in the beginning, like a level service that we can tell and, the extra ask. I want to make 2 points so that I'm very clear. The town manager also received an email from me over the weekend with, I think I counted about 125 comments on the budget. I had gone line by line. I had requested her the local receipts, and I just sent her my suggestions because I think we can get it. Like, we had 1.6 million extra this past year. I did a average, a median, and I think we might be able to get some more. So that level service number might be smaller. The other point I want to make is that, I am going to be very rigid about the process of what is a level service. When I look at the actuals from FY25 and for all the departments, and that's part of what Jen got from me, the many lines. Because I think we have spoken a lot about the school had money that didn't use in FY25. The town also had money that didn't use in FY25. And I think, and I'm trying to get that line to be smaller. What is our level service like? I know it's not, if we can get that number to be smaller, that initial ask is going to be very easy, and it's going to be safe for us to be confident that we're not going to be laying off our current employees. We're not going to be reducing services. So that's my goal, is to really try to shrink that number as much as possible. And, and I am going to scrutinize everything that's been used. A point that I have made many points, but I think, the people presenting the budget, which is, we get 2 different budgets. One comes from the town, one comes from the schools. You get my ask for you is to truly present a level services that is as close to what actuals will be as possible. And that will allow us to be more strategic with monies. And if we have to borrow to purchase capital, I think that's an available way of getting things done. So those are my 2 comments.
Thank you. Have we heard from Adam?
He is in a contentious hearing.
Okay, I'm just asking Amanda if he's tried to log. Oh, you're texting him?
Yep.
He's texting in the middle of a contentious.
Now I'm turning
contentious
to
meeting.
Amanda.
That's what lawyers do. Okay. I told Amanda, Mandy, I'd let her go next.
I guess my question is, if we go for bare bones level services, are we going to be back here next year doing the same thing?
Yes.
We are. Yep. So is this group willing to go for an override every year? The last few years, we've been told that people don't want to get an override every year. They don't want to hear from us every year. I promise you, if we put on a bare bones minimum with 9% health insurance increases, everyone at this table is smart enough to know the state is not going to fill that gap in this period of time. I am doing work to try to help get us more money, but so are we willing next year to come back to this table, right? I think that's a valid question from the school committee, because we are going to be here again talking about kids not being able to read.
Okay. Well, I haven't heard from Tom. I think he's raising his hand.
Tom Gray, I'm on the finance committee. I think we got to focus on this year. We don't know what's next year. Insurance could be 10%, it could be 2%, could be flat. I don't know. If it's 20%, no matter what we do this year, it's going to be a problem. I think we got to be honest with the electorate and say, we're just trying to deal with this year, and we're going to try to deal with next year. We're doing what we can. We're spending your dollars wisely, but we're not going to overcharge you this year so we can get more money next year because we think it's going to be more. We don't know. So I think the best way to do it is to be honest with the electorate. And I'm listening to people going, well, we need a balance, we need what a balanced budget would be without an override. Of course, because if it fails, we have to deal with that. Then what do we do with the override? And to me, we have to decide what we think is best for the town. and if the town will accept it. Now, those are two different questions, but we are the people who are very involved in all this stuff, and we have to decide, can we live with a flat level, by definition, what a flat level budget is, where we're providing the same level of service? Is that going to be acceptable to us? Now, the budgets as they were presented to the Finance Committee, the 3.5 million, whatever over, is that going to be acceptable to us? Some people are saying we should do more. But the answer ultimately comes down to is what the voters at the town meeting, and then if that passes at the ballot, are going to vote for. And I think we have to present something honestly to them that we think is fair and right. And I think someone said they don't know what the voters are going to vote for. I agree, I don't know. But we probably have to, as a group, decide that, and decide it pretty quickly. We're a little ahead of schedule because we started earlier, but we're now taking our time and kind of losing ground. We need to get this out. People aren't going to really respond to this until there's signs saying no on override. There's going to be signs all over the place, yes and no, and then they're going to ask questions. That's just the way it is. I think we can pretend like we can get them excited. I actually watched the fire chief's presentation, even though he gave it to the Finance Committee. I was suggested to do that by the town manager, and I did learn things that I didn't know, so thank you. But I did it a few days later, and there were like 10 people beyond me that watched it, and there were, I don't know how many people there. So, and that's a big thing. So people aren't interested yet. That's not their fault. They have real lives with real responsibilities, and so I can't blame anybody for not spending time watching these things. But we're the ones, so we have to make the decisions. So please, let's do our duty. Let the school committee and the select board decide. We just kind of say, yeah, we like it, or no, we don't. But and ask a lot of questions. But to me, we got to make those decisions, and we just can't sit there and pass it on. Just what do we think is the right thing to do?
Thanks, Tom. I think Renee was next, and then
So-
I'll on you next.
I just want to say this again. I don't think a true level service is enough. It's just, there's too many critical gaps. In talking to the superintendent and watching school committee, Chris needs an assistant. I mean, he just had 3-4 days off. Yay. We have a primary principal in the kindergarten class. We know the reading scores. So, and then for town, I am fully behind an assistant town manager position. 4th shift fire, is that considered level or not? I think that's why I feel like this tier, so a level plus, because there are some strategic key gaps that we have to address. And a level, with an override, level service is not going to address enough of those needs.
Core services, that's what I'm calling it.
Okay, I promised I'd call on her next. So give us your name and everything since you're the first time speaking.
Emily Young on the school committee. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you said. I was one of those parents that watched all the meetings for the past few years.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes at home, and before I was on the school committee. And I can just say that when everyone decided that the TriBoard was going to happen and the community was going to come together to do an override together, parents were talking. That just the fact that the community was doing it together, I think, was a really big deal. Because there was a lot of back and forth between the town, the school, and I think it just didn't feel community-like. So now on the school committee and being part of this, it's really great to see the community coming together. So that would be my one. I'm not a huge numbers person. It's my first year. I'm working on it, but my biggest thing, I think, is that we're in it together and that we're showing people that we're in it together, and then I think it won't be so hard to get people on board. I think that's a really big part of it, because you're going to have the parents that rallied for the 2025 override, and then you're going to have the rest of the community that might jump on board as well because they're seeing us all working together for a common goal to make the town better, not just the schools, not just one part of the town.
So Renee, I can be kind of simple-minded sometimes. Level plus is an override.
Yes.
Yeah.
Level, like,
Plus.
what we have today is an override.
is an
I would
override.
suggest we call it core services instead of level.
Plus, of course, I don't care.
I know, but if we say level, like,
Anything matters.
I think it does matter
I
because
think
I
it
don't
matters
think.
too, and that's why a simple mind like mine had to ask. Because if level, people are going to think, okay, we're just.
Exactly the
gonna-
same.
Everything's the same, right, but that's why I'm saying
Yeah,
it.
and I will say this, because this might be a contentious point. Oh, actually, Mr. Moderator.
Go ahead.
is it Okay.
Yeah.
For me, when I look at not the balanced cut budget, but core services, if we are able to, as a select board, would be looking to make cuts, which means potential FTEs, which means potential service cuts, in order to get the fire fourth shift in our core services. I want a restoration level override to pass, so we don't have to make those cuts. But I don't know that I can call what I would like to see as in my tiers as level, because that's a pretty big change, and we would be doing some substantial cuts if we were trying to achieve that.
So nomenclature makes a difference.
That's why I
You're
was
gonna call it level
saying
plus, you're
core
gonna call
I
it
services.
like core. I like core services.
Core is strategic, like, these are strategic additions. Like, what we're doing, we're getting rid of, I think on the school side too, some of the cuts that were done last year that aren't being replaced, but you're strategically, because the needs have changed, the needs of the town have changed, maybe the needs of the kid, now we're going to a whiteboard?
I was just gonna write core.
I think though that's helpful.
Different words.
Thank you. I think that's helpful if you had a marker.
Having two tier levels, I'm afraid, might send the message that the things we're asking for at the higher level are optional and we can live without. Things like maybe the fourth shift for the fire department. We need that. That is a necessity we need right now. And if we have level service and then you're gonna have to make cuts just to get it, we're sending the message that there are things to cut. And I don't know about the select board side of things, but I know that Lunenburg runs very lean.
Oh, this would still be devastating.
And I know the schools, the things we are adding back in, they're not unnecessary. We are not expanding things. We're not adding another world language. We're not adding anything unnecessary. So by having tiers, I worry that the message we're sending is you can go for keep going as usual and everything's fine, or shoot for the moon. Whereas I would like our ask to be what we need to function for next year and maybe a little bit in the future.
I would say that services is in the viewpoint of the consumer, which is in the taxpayer. Most people probably don't even know where a town manager's office is or how many people fit in that box
Or
that
who,
is over there.
who she is. I
Or-
would bet
well,
that the majority of town doesn't know who she is.
Well, so I think you get,
And she likes it that way.
We think this matters, but it doesn't matter to 90% of people.
so I think if you get cute with language, with core versus level service is something I think people understand. And that means there's no change in my trash. DPW is still gonna do snow,
See,
you know.
that's not what I'm proposing, though. I would be proposing making cuts. It wouldn't be level.
Different services.
It would be different services, which is why I don't want to call it level, because
There are changes.
when we haven't talked as a board, this is just me going through the budget on my own. If we do these two override options, which I called core and restoration, restoration is what I want. That's everything that we've talked about. That's the full school override, that's the full town override. The smaller one, which I'm calling core, I would be proposing making drastic cuts, including potentially some layoffs, to include the fire department in our core services. So I don't want to call it level, because it's really not level. We would be reducing services. We would be talking about getting rid of programs. It wouldn't be level.
I would recommend going to level. I mean, as the first override. Personally, that would be my recommendation.
So one thing that I want to, I get the language. I do like core services better, because one thing, like, I honestly think that we should always be doing budget based on zero budgeting principle, where you start from zero and really analyze, is this really need? We have this practice of just adding, building on top of a budget, and it's like, well, I can look the actuals for the past 3 years. You have never spent that money, or you have always overspent on that money, so I like the core so that, because I would hope we are actually being strategic about how we're using the money that we have. And I hope the town manager, she seems willing to be strategic about it, like, and not just add 2% to everything. And that's where I think saying core services, to keep our, to keep our level services and make strategic decisions is a good one.
Okay, so Anthony, I'm going to call you in a second. But you're talking about messaging, okay? What's the language going to be and how you're going to get the message out and what is the message understood? So I would suggest, you don't have to listen to me, but I would suggest that maybe one member from each of the committees would get together and kind of hammer out what you think the message can be, Now, we're fortunate because Mandy does this kind of work or did this kind of work for a lot of years, as she already said. So messaging and getting the word out and how to campaign is a skill that she has. Say it again. And Brian. I don't remember you doing that part, Brian, but that's okay. I know Mandy's experience because, anyways.
You've got to be cautious. We're not allowed to campaign.
Okay, well, forget the word campaign. We have to.
Message.
We have message, through messaging. We have.
I think you want a message.
But as public officials, we can participate in campaigns. It's not, there's no reason that anybody at this table can't participate in campaign work. If you are a public official who has,
Mike?
if you're a public official who gets paid to work here, a la Jen, you can't raise money. That's against, she can still talk. But Dr. Fortuna could never raise money. Teachers can't raise money. But messaging is fine. I mean, I read through the stuff you sent. I don't, right?
I agree. With the disclaimer that if anybody has questions, please contact the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. But
Right, I did read, I did my research.
Okay.
If we don't educate as best we can, the gap is going to be filled with BS.
Yes.
Okay.
And lies and, it's just these rich, blah, blah, blah.
So I'm going to
we need
suggest to the
educate.
chair of each of these committees that you designate somebody to get together with the others and start talking about what it sounds like. Right? Because,
I think the chairs.
if one is saying level,
The chairs
and
will
one is
talk
saying
about
core,
that.
say it
The
again?
chairs will talk about that.
Thank you very much. Okay, now I was supposed to call on Brian. Sorry, nope, hold on.
Oh, can I go at one point?
You can.
Okay, thanks. There we go. Thank you.
Introduce yourself since you haven't spoken yet.
Thank you. Brian Leighton and Select Board. I want to thank Sarah Camera, who made a lot of great points at the public comment. And I
Yes.
think we did have another family here too. If the parents and the students get asked, they will come. We've seen that. We've seen a presence. We saw teachers here even at the TriBoard meeting. And they will come to the town meeting and they will see Mr. Murphy and they'll vote for their article and they will all leave right after that article and upset Mr. Murphy. But that's what's going to happen. People are going to show up if we ask. I did want to hit up a lot of the points that were talked about. It is my intent as well on an override. I think the numbers should be ready by the end of March. I think that's the hope by the select board. I think we've heard that by a majority. I think it is also important that we have a balanced budget. I appreciate the town manager and the superintendent talking about that they do have the numbers. I don't think a broad number is a good idea. I think Ms. Emke talked about it. We need to have those numbers justified for it to be successful and to present a number that the finance committee will be able to review the lines and ask questions and approve. So it needs to be a thought out number, well thought out number. I don't believe level service is a good idea. I think the schools are struggling, and I think we've heard that already from the teachers who came here. I think we've heard it from the school committee that a level service is not a good idea. And I think coming down to it, big picture, it should be the school committee who decides what their number is, what their ask is. And I think you've heard different proposals, go big, go small, go safe. but I think it's the school committee that's going to decide their number of what their needs are for the students of Lunenburg. And then let the voters decide. I would support a two-tiered system, but I don't think it's the best option. I think we've heard it before that people will likely just vote for the lower tier, and I don't think it's a good idea. And if we're just focusing on this year, I think then it would be only a one-tier option. I think a tier 2 option would be if you wanted to go for future years, whether 2 or 3 years. But I don't think we're ready for that, as some others have spoke. And then the last point, I think Ms. Moore hit it on the head too. It's like you need to, it's not just about level service. It is about the services that we need and the services that our students need.
Thank you. Tanya, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Tanya, Finance Committee. I agree with you, but I also want to add that last sentence you said, the students, the schools, the town also needs. We also need to have a fire department that's functioning and safe. So I think having one override and coming together as a community is the right choice. Looking at these level services and working with other cities in civic engagement, one thing that I might suggest is if you're going to bring a tiered proposal to town meeting, you should be very ready with data for each single one and what it's going to cost each household each way. Because I might be like, I love schools, I love parks, I love firefighters. I can afford that middle tier in my budget, as opposed to, they might pick something that's different if they look at it and say, hey, it's only $60 a month. And my kids are learning, and I'm safe, the fire department's gonna come. So like my suggestion when putting this is like down the road, be very specific with messaging and branding, very specific. Level, to me, sounds like you're not making cuts. And you are. So it is what it is. It's a cut budget. You have to be very honest. If you pick this one, we're cutting positions or whatever. The level service, for me, like in my mind, means we're keeping everything the same, which is going to require an override. So I'm just trying to think of like a regular resident who's hearing these words and then thinking, what does that mean? Core services, strategic, those are great words too, but we need very harsh, distinct words that are going to really construe to the residents, like, we're cutting things. We're keeping it the same, but you're gonna have to pay an override and this is what it's gonna cost. Or we're gonna add some services to make our schools better or our fire department better. So that's my 2, 3, 4, 5 cents.
Excellent. Go ahead, Anthony.
One concern that I have is...
Microphone on.
One concern that I have is about the ability to pass an override if we go to people and say to them, we're going to make your schools only marginally better, right? If we go to the town and say, we want you to vote for this thing, like level services budget, like we see what the results of the level services budget is in the data. The parents who voted to pass that override 2 years ago are not going to be motivated to vote for something that keeps the status quo when the status quo is bad. And so I think the idea that we come to them for an override on level services is not only unwise, it will not pass, it is also imprudent in that we know that we need more. And so at the bare minimum, we should go along with, I'm just going to put you guys together. I know you haven't talked about this, but Renee's proposal that seems to be the same as Amanda's proposal, which is to have a, core function override. We have to sell this to people. And if we sell this to people by saying, we want you to spend more money on something that's not working, I just don't know how you convince people to do that. Like, it is not a compelling message to go to them and say that. If you are a parent of a 3rd grade student who cannot read at grade level, and we say to you, we want you to pay more, and we're going to keep that same problem of lack of interventionists in place, it's not going to work. No one wants that. And I don't think that it's dangerous to say we should ask for what we need. If we need interventionists in the primary school. We need paras in kindergarten. We need an additional ELL teacher. I can go through and list these things off the top of my head, but I just think that at the end of the day, we have to think about electability, and we have all of this conversation amongst us, the, 0.5% of the people in the town that are really engaged. And then we ask, the rest of the town, who doesn't know who the town manager is by name, to decipher what we really want. And it will not work. We need to have something we can sell. I do not think we can sell or win if we have an override on a level services budget.
What's the risk, Anthony, if we go for that high and they vote it down?
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, can you mitigate the risk between the levels?
I think that I am being more persuaded by Amanda and Renee's proposal to have a core function and then a restoration, but not go for an override on level services. No one wants to pay more. This is like when you found out that BMW is charging you a subscription to use your seat heaters. No, I'm not paying for that. No, that is stupid. And we are not thinking about electability. We're not thinking about winning an election. You win an election by telling people we are going to make things better, not we want more money to deliver the same level of services we have. It just doesn't work.
So it's not clear to me.
Hold on.
Can I just ask him to
just-
clarify?
Just go ahead. Then I gotta call on Glenn
Tony,
eventually.
so you're saying,
He's too polite.
you're saying that you want to have the Renee solution, which is not the budget you presented so far to us? I'm trying to tie what you said with numbers.
I don't know.
Okay.
Want what we presented.
That's right. I think that we should have one, if it was up to me, I would say we should have one number that does the best we can to insulate for the financial catastrophe that is coming over the next 2 years. I think that number is $3 million. But if that's not something that everybody can get behind, as a compromise position, I would be willing to consider what other people have proposed. I don't know what that looks like in terms of
Gotcha.
numbers.
So it's
I just learned this tonight, so I have no
it could
numbers.
be a different number than the proposed budget that was shown at the FinCom meeting presentation.
They just told me this now.
No, I'm talking about the school, Tony. I'm talking about the school.
I'm answering your question. Your question is, what would our number be? And I said, I don't know, because I learned about this idea tonight. So I have no idea. You can ask me a million different ways. I'm going to give you the same answer.
And we haven't voted on it, we haven't talked about it. We 3 times have looked at the restoration budget.
I was trying to understand what he said in this term.
I think he's trying to be a team player, that the school committee has voted on, and we want the restoration budget. We believe we could have asked for $4 million. We believe we have stuck to our guns at 1.9 because that is what our students need. Any school committee member who doesn't agree with this, you can obviously, but that is, and we've talked about it a few times. Dr. Fortuna has come to us at least twice in the last month and told us she thinks we need to come down. We have been very clear that we think this number is she has done her due diligence with us. So I think what Tony is saying, and I don't want to speak for you, is that as a town, we want to work together. So we don't want I don't want a tiered override, but we are not unwilling to consider something, but we think a level services budget is definitely not going to pass because the schools are in that dire of a situation. Parents are not going to come and vote to save. My nephew's in a class with 28 students. So, I just can't imagine getting parents to come out to raise their taxes by $100 to give them not good service. You know what I mean? Because we don't feel like we're doing our best.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, hold on.
Show up for that.
I promised Glenn I'd let him.
The pressure.
And it's really hard to get airtime over there.
So this is going to be
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, profound.
Introduce yourself because you're speaking for the first time.
Glenn McLeod, Select Board. This might go to messaging or strategy, but I think it's very important to keep the voters on notice that this is, in my opinion, a direct result of the lack of investment from the state into our communities. And it's my understanding that this year there will be more communities than ever that are going for an override. And one of my primary concerns with passing an override, and I would say I'm most closely aligned with the Finance Committee, and I've said it before, I really appreciate their input on these matters. I find it very helpful. But it's those situations, if we continue to pass overrides, they simply will not address the problem that we all know is present. I know that's not, helpful for the concerns expressed at this meeting, which is extremely interesting. But I do think, and again, back to the messaging and, strategy, is you have to acknowledge that. In my opinion, you should acknowledge that to the public, that we are struggling at the lack of investment from the state. And it's most obvious through the schools, but it is throughout municipal services. And it is unacceptable, and they need to be held accountable. And I'll stop there.
Thank you. Laura, I think you were trying to jump in.
I was saying, yeah, I absolutely agree with Mandy. We've made, I've said it before tonight, a pretty conservative ask based on the data from this year that's showing that the cuts we sustained last year, which were large, are not working and the students are suffering. And I don't know where else we can cut. We have been working very lean for years, and there's simply nowhere else to take from. When we do the cuts budget next on the 18th, it's going to be incredibly difficult. It's going to decimate our system. And again, I think one override, let me put it this way. There is nothing in our ask, there are no positions I cannot defend as necessary. And I'm assuming the select board has it the same way with your ask. It's necessary. You're not expanding things. You're not bringing in a new garbage program where we're getting picked up 3 times a week. It's a reasonable ask. One override sends the message that this is what we need to continue forward as a town the way we are. We're not adding anything more. We're not expanding what the town is doing. We're not replacing all the fire trucks with something brand new. It's to add in services that we've long needed, and it's to continue relatively the same level services we have now that we cannot afford to provide without an override.
So let's see where the consensus, if there is any consensus, between one, as Laura was proposing, or the 2 that Renee over there is proposing. So go ahead and speak. But then I want to kind of see, almost like a show of hands, where we are on that. Go ahead, Renee. This is your moment.
Killing me. I'm having a senior moment. Yes. I want to come back to, I know the school has added positions and justified each one. That's clear. Jen has also suggested additions. They're coming with cuts, associated cuts. We're making room for things. We're making room for fire. Well, that's what we're talking about. You know, we heard the mosquito program presentation tonight. We're talking about pavement management. We're looking for other places where we can reduce services or eliminate things to make room in what I'll call the core services, the first tier. My ask of the school committee is to do the same. So you have your full restoration, right? Look elsewhere. What are your top priority must have? And I've had conversations that I think there are. You guys talked about the full athletic trainer. So there are possibilities out there to discuss, and I ask that those be put on the table, at least for discussion, to come up with a sub-restoration, or whatever we're going to call it, that first tier, that middle. Because I know, speaking for myself, I'm going to do it, and I think the rest of the select board is going to do that as well.
Before we vote, can we define the tiers? Or like,
I want to start with whether or not it's one or tier, and then we'll talk about defining tiers.
Okay.
So,
Can I just, point of order?
Go in with balanced budget and one override?
One override, whatever it is for the moment, whether you call it level services, core services, restoration services, whatever. But I just want to get a sense, are we going to have one number that we're going to go for, that we're going to ask for? Or are we going to, or are people of the mind that we should have two options kind of a thing?
Can we even step it back and just make sure we do a show of hands of who even wants to see an override at all, just to make sure we're all on the same page?
All right, so how many
There.
people are in favor of an override?
In favor of putting it on the ballot.
Putting
Putting it on the ballot, yeah, I'm not saying,
All right,
yeah.
that's important.
Can you just, not count?
Was that-
Just for the minutes, like, can we have it just showing up, was it everybody?
Everybody.
So the
Everyone.
question is, put an override on the ballot in town meeting, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that,
So
we
no one,
have that
Okay.
consensus, which is good.
All right.
At least we can say that.
so to be clear, no one was opposed?
No.
Correct.
Okay, so every person in this room agrees we need an override.
On the ballot.
On the ballot.
On the ballot.
Tri-board, yeah, on the tri-board.
Maybe they won't vote for it, but it is my understanding, right? But that they
They're
want
all
the
saying
voters
I
to be
go
able to vote on it.
On the ballot.
Now, have we lost some?
Very rarely
Amanda?
do all of us agree on something.
That's somebody's cameras off at home.
Okay.
That would
All
be-
right, but we're still connected and we're still being broadcast. And Adam is still in his contentious meeting.
I just was checking.
Son of a gun. Okay, that happened. All
For the
right,
booth, we're not seeing on the screen in here the
I think it's
view,
just-
but.
Oh, yeah, it shows this one.
I think that's the Zoom view.
Yeah.
okay, so now I want to see how many people are in favor of just one override, one number, whatever the number is. I don't vote, I suppose. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, one number, and that's it. Now, how many people would be in favor of?
Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead.
Can I just make a comment that the entire school committee also wanted one, just a note?
Okay. And then how many people are in favor of having two numbers? And that's 5 people. So it's relatively split, you know, because I'm sure there's a couple of people that aren't here tonight. I know Caesar for one. Huh?
I'm just not sure, I'd like to hear more conversations like the budget, the budgetary discussions and stuff, so I'm really not sure, but if you needed to count me on one of those, it'd be the last one. Yes.
It's a minutes.
I mean, it's not it's like not a binding.
No, it's
Yeah.
a straw poll.
No.
Yeah, so I mean.
Yeah, no, this
There
is
are
not
peop-
binding.
Number
And there are
two.
people missing. I mean, I know Caesar
Yeah.
for one is missing, so, you know, it may be.
And Glenn voted for option 2.
Yeah, option
For
two.
option 2. And 5 people not here. So it's maybe relatively
Well, there's
close.
17 of us, and you said it was 7 to 5.
7 to 5, yeah.
7-6 with Glenn, so we're pretty even.
Oh, okay, so there's 4 people not.
All right, okay. I don't know how to bring that together for a plan for even tonight, you know? I mean, how do you kick that around? Do you kick that around each one of your committees and come back on that issue? Did anybody, other than Jen maybe, read the handout that Adam had about the various different options that we have? We don't have Adam to present on it, but can you summarize how these things work?
I really would rather that Adam did. I mean, that's what he was here for. So I can try to answer questions if
Did you
folks
read it,
have
Amanda?
questions. She's got it marked
Mandy
up.
did her homework. So Mandy, tell us what our options are over there, so that Jen doesn't have.
Well, I mean, the options, you could probably construct a variety of options based on what you were looking to do. You know, Adam Costa, our town council, when we talked about him joining us tonight, he said that he's had these conversations with 3 out of 6 of his communities, and many of those conversations have required him to go to the DLS, Division of Local Services, to ask more nuanced questions, because many communities are not thinking of what's printed in that book, but they're thinking of variations and iterations off of there. Folks are trying to get creative. But really, I think the easier way to do that is, what do you want, and then what does that fit into? I mean, there's a big list. there's so many different ways you could do it.
Mr. Moderator, being an attorney, if you'd like a look at it.
Oh, God.
I did just text Adam to say we're still going for a while to see if he would give an indication of perhaps where he is on his hearing. He must be speaking at the moment, but we'll see if he writes.
All right, okay. So,
MBTA.
Oops, microphone.
I think what we just voted for, those two options, can be constructed pretty easily by Adam.
Yes.
And I don't think we're looking for like voting excess levy capacity or doing any kind of confusing thing that,
That's where it gets confusing.
right.
so let's talk around the room again. Is there anybody that is diametrically opposed to the 1 or diametrically opposed to the 2? To the point where we're going to be digging our heels in as a group, because we want to be able to come together as a group. So just address that a little bit.
So I am very, very much against just one. And the core reason that I am is because I was there in 2012, and my kids suffer that. The band, at the time that my daughter, she was marching band, they had over 60 kids. The consequences of that failure of the override for asking too much was that now the band, I think a year or so ago, there were 30 kids. I think it's just so risky. It literally makes me nervous to think that we are going to be in that position. And I am also pro, every request should be strong enough to stand on its own. I think that's how I feel. I don't like being pressured to vote one way or the other. Lunenburg voters vote to support the schools. After that 2012 failure vote, I think it was in 2013 or 14, we voted to build a new school. So I think it's extremely dangerous, and I'm going to say reckless, to not go, to try to not give the option and then having to deal with the consequences.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. I want to try to take more of the emotion out of it and kind of look at it as the school committee is going to determine their budget, determine what their needs are for the students, put a number forward, and then the finance committee, they're going to review it without emotions. They're going to go through the line items and see if mistakes, they're going to ask questions, and then I think the school committee is going to decide on a number, and then the select board, as our job is to put the article forward to the voters and have that discussion at town meeting so that the voters can decide if they want it or not, and if they support what the school committee is trying to do with the public schools.
So you're on the one vote?
Yes.
One number, one vote. I'm just trying to see if anybody, because I think we need to come together in the end as this tri-board. So I'm trying to look at people that just can't live with one or can't live with two. Tom, I'll call
I
it.
just think one override is what we need. I think we have to decide what that is. And we can, if I am in the public and I am, so the school committee thinks it should be $1.5 million override. No, they think 3.5. Well, what is it? It is a very bad message to send that we can't even figure out what the right thing is. Now, we can say, well, we just don't know what you guys want. Well, that's, ultimately, we have to pick a number and go with it. And I say, everything that I've heard from all the budgets, none of it seems out of the ordinary. The question is, can we get it? And I think the school and the select board have to decide, what is the number that we can get? Because I think all of them are good. I think all of them have their values. So we just have to pick a number and move from there, and then be forceful and educate the people.
Okay, Amanda. Can you live with one? Can you live with two?
I don't want to say I cannot live with one, because I don't want to be contentious. But I am, if you had to put me on the spot right now, I would say no. I would probably dig my feet in, because I really am concerned about the ability of it to pass. That doesn't mean I couldn't be convinced when I actually look at it. I'm hesitant to give that definitive answer because the select board hasn't gone through all of these things yet. What I would like, and when I was looking at this in a tiered approach, is I want to push the full override, the full restoration, whatever we call it, the big number. I want that to be the main messaging. And then I want to give the options of, okay, but if you won't support this, these are all the services we're losing. I kind of want to present it in that way. Like, it's not that it's a, we can't decide. We decided this is the big number. This is the number that we need. This is not an over ask. And then but I want to say, if you won't support that, even though this is what we want, these are your other options. Devastation 1 or 2 is where I'm at.
Tanya, go ahead. All right, okay.
I would probably stick on 2, and these are my reasons why. And it's unfortunate. Sometimes this is not based on like policy, it's based on town trust. And I think we don't have it because of what happened last year. So there's a big method of fear here that we're gonna be giving these residents one choice, and I think they're gonna balk at that. And I think it's very high risk to have one thing on there and then have them vote it down. You know, if we have 2 choices on there, then it's a little bit more transparent of, we're trying to work with you, we need the money, we need to have the override, but here's the choices, here's the taxes implications, here's the dollar amounts, this is what you're gonna get, this is what you're gonna lose, depending on the levels that you choose. Just unfortunately, with the way the town has been going in the past few years that I've seen, there's a trust issue when it comes to overrides right now. So I'm going to stick with 2.
Chris?
So I think the question you're asking is maybe not a good question, because I would hope that after spending the entire summer together and a lot of the winter, that whatever the select board weighs in on will take into consideration finance committee's opinions that they've heard, school committees' opinions that have heard. But in the end, when we started this TriBoard, we did recognize that we are coming together as 3 distinct boards that each have a distinct role in town. And I will say, just like Brian said, ultimately, it is the select board's decision as to whether to go forward with 1 or 2. And then it is the finance committee's, role to then go and assess that and make recommendations and lay it out to the voters what that means, and the implications and everything else that we do associated with that. So I would hope that we've all had our opinion on 1 versus 2. We all agreed that we should at least have an override on the ballot, and that we respect the decision that the select board makes for which path to go down, one or 2, and we don't go against it just for the sake that they were on the other camp. So, I voted for 2 in the straw poll, but if it's 1, I'm going to support that decision and do our analysis and recommendations accordingly.
Go ahead, Tony.
I know this is like.
Up, microphone.
I know this is not what people want to hear, given that it was 7 to 6, but I could be persuaded either way.
7.
Wow, that was pretty good.
Wow. I have grandchildren.
Impeccable timing. But I think that ultimately the guide star for all of us should be what's best for the town. And if, Anna's story about 60 to 30 is really concerning. Yeah. I would not want the kids that come to meetings and stay till 10:30 talking to us about the value of band to be blown up because, we went for one number and it was too big. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned about the messaging, because I think that if we go for 2 numbers and we have a lower number, that the people of the town will think that that number is somehow suitable, and I think that that's deceptive. So if we can figure out a way to work the messaging so that the lower number is presented to them as, this is the minimum we need to carry on.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's still devastating. I just don't know that that's going to be possible. I think that requires a degree of subtlety that's probably lost in an election. Maybe it works on town meeting floor because we have such a skilled moderator that brings out the debate, but it will be hard for people to remember that in the ballot box. So my concern about the 2 is more about the veracity of the messaging than the strategy. Yeah, Anna's example is a powerful reason to support 2 instead of 1. I just think that it will be in some ways deceptive to the voters.
Okay, show of hands, how many people can support 2? Laura, was that a hand or was that a wave? I couldn't tell if you were waving at me or...
I will support what we decide as a body, because I think it's important that we're unified. I still think it's a bad idea. I think that voters will respond better to one choice of fund the town or don't fund the town. I think that I would hope that the select board side of things, your asks are all very important asks that we are asking for in an override without extras, because I know that's what our ask is. And we're out of things to, I know that there is probably some wiggle room and maybe we could wiggle, but I don't want to speak for the other 3 members of the school committee, but I would not vote for many reductions because I don't think we can sustain many more reductions. And I think that one number sends the message that the town and the schools got together and this is what we need for next year to continue operating and to provide the services that we need: fire, schools, roads, police, the important things. And I think that one number is simpler and it's just easier to sell, it's easier to campaign for, and it's easier to explain to people.
But it could be defeated.
2 of them could be confused.
Anything could be defeated.
Having a tiered override does not guarantee that the lower, worse option is also not defeated.
Mr. Moderator,
Go ahead.
Attorney Costa is going to be joining in just a moment, just to let you know.
Say what?
Attorney Costa is going to be joining in just a moment.
How wonderful. We'll just all sit here and twiddle our thumbs at him. We'll wait for you. All right, that's good.
I just
Go ahead,
know
go ahead,
how,
Anna.
how, like, I see it, Laura, as like, literally my kids lived through that. Like, it was so devastating, and it was both sides, like, and they were asking too much, and they were told at that time.
But we're not.
Hold on, let me just for a minute. In my mind, like, how do you reconcile that risk with, like, not, I don't know, like, I would want to be playing all the cards that I could possibly win to ensure that we don't go through that again. And it feels like, that's like, I am literally thinking that is like, it's too risky. And how do you reconcile, like, not putting another option on the table in order to have, hopefully at least something to be successful?
So last
I'm
time.
going to interject again because we're going to call on Adam in just a minute. But a couple things that, looking around the room, I think I've lived here longer than almost anybody else in this room. So I don't go back to 2012 overrides. I go back to several. I go back to the town before we had a Proposition 2.5 at all. And so we've had more than just that one in 2012 go down to defeat. There have been a number of them that have gone down to defeat. So, it's quite within the realm of possibility, maybe certainty. I will also say that, the campaign that was run for the schools was very effective. In my opinion, I shared this with Mandy once in an email, that the school got out their votes, and then everything else was kind of silent. There was no opposition. There were no people campaigning against. When I look around the towns, I see people carrying signs out on the streets in opposition to overrides, and I think that those things happen. And so me personally, I think the risk of having one number, Laura, is very high, because if it doesn't pass, then we're going to be in greater straits. Anyways, that's my stump speech. So how do we call on Adam? Well, let him in. Oh, he hasn't called in yet. Oh, I thought he was there. You can't summons him? I can do summonsing, but not at this hour of the night. All right, so kick it around a little bit more. I mean, one versus the two, take your
So-
chances on one number. Go
Can I
ahead.
just say that I think I want to just reiterate to everyone in this room how important it is for whatever we decide that people campaign if they want it to pass. And that doesn't mean you have to, go to strangers' doors, but we need people to talk to people to vote for it, right? And and that is just so key. That's why the last one passed, because not me, a lot of people did a lot of talking.
You did a lot of time.
I did, because I like to talk.
Really?
My question is, if we don't have a full restoration budget, which is what the school wants, and frankly, what it needs, even though we really can't afford it, if, say, we vote and we're going for that level budget, or even that core service budget, are you still going to campaign for that budget, or are you going to be,
It'll be a harder sell if we're telling kids we're cutting sports and we're cutting positions. It's going to be a much harder sell. People are going to be a lot less passionate about it.
I personally, a level services budget, I'm okay possibly with 2 tiers if we're not talking about a level services, I guess is what I'm saying. Right, so I just want that to be very clear. Me personally will be doing no campaigning if it's a level services budget, because that will be devastating to the schools, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and I know all of you are putting a lot of time and energy in here, but, I just don't know that I can muster the strength to do it.
Just to be clear, though.
Yeah.
This not level the core.
Yeah.
I can speak from the town part of the budget. It will have cuts, and I assume from the school will also include cuts. It will have additions.
But we took cuts last year.
It's strategic.
Right, and we
swapping in and
did,
out.
we did take cuts
So,
last year
I just
already.
want to be
so,
clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is there something between core and full restoration?
No, I think the core is that.
That's it.
but we haven't decided what core is yet. I guess that's so.
Okay.
So the thing is that the school committee has only decided, we have only voted on and supported a restoration. That is what we have talked about.
Okay.
So I think we'll have to go back. Dr. Fortuna made some not last minute, but she made some suggestions to us over the weekend that could be cuts to get to a core, which I am willing to entertain, right? But I just,
That's not what I want either.
but I just want you to know that I think it's a hard sell to get people
Yeah.
riled up to raise money and go door to door and send emails and for a budget that
No one's voting for level service.
is pretty crap.
I'd be interested in a straw poll of a restoration override.
Well, just say one thing. Just because you have more options doesn't mean you're going to get the results that you want.
Yes.
I mean, you might be less likely to get it. Game theory, people that do all that stuff, I don't know much about it, but I just know it's a lot more complicated than you think. So we're sitting here trying to figure out how to hedge our bets. That's basically what we're trying to do. If we can't get the whole pie, can we get 3/4 of the pie? And the answer is, I don't know. But to me, it's a much harder, if the school committee thinks that the only school budget that we really want is the restoration budget, then stick with it.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need. And then sell it to the people and tell them what it is. And if you think that 3/4 of that, where you're going to lay off some teachers and it's not going to be that great and that little kid isn't going to get to play band and that's not going to happen and you're going
It's
to have all
not
these
band,
other
that kid,
things.
that little kid won't be able to read.
Well, whatever the thing is, that's what you gotta, so suck it up and do it, if that's what you think. I just sit here and go like, oh, well, that's what you're there for. We're on the school committee to look after the students and do the right thing. I am not on the school committee, I was never an educator, barely educated, and, but I'm gonna trust that you make good decisions. Now, we're gonna look at it in the finance department and, Anna's gonna make sure that the numbers all add up. But but that's our job. And the same thing for the town.
I agree. I think this is what we met a year ago to discuss, was like the school committee wants an override and let's have this year-long process and do it.
Okay, I think Adam is available. Adam, can you hear us? No. You here? Adam J. Costa Esquire. We don't need the screen, we just need the voice. We know what you look like.
I wonder, is this volume on? Do you hear?
Hold on.
To the booth, we can't hear anything, not sure if there's an audio issue.
Keep talking, Adam, we'll let you know when we can hear you. Maybe.
Could someone else that's on Zoom try to speak and see if we can hear you?
They can hear him on Zoom. We just can't hear him.
Okay. To the booth, we can't hear in the room, but they can hear him on Zoom.
I think sometimes you need to join this.
Things muted.
Oh, hi, Carla.
Volume's all the way down right there.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, the volume on the computer.
Hi, can you hear us?
Thank you. Does that work?
We can't hear you at all.
No, the volume on the
Is the
computer.
Oh,
volume
no,
on the
so
screen
the
down?
volume on the screen, the little
Is muted.
speaker.
That's,
Whoever's hosting.
hold on, it's.
I think it's.
This just builds up the anticipation, you know?
There are 18 kids in the fall.
Yeah, it's.
This is what someone.
Adam, do you want to test? You're on.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's fine.
See? Yankee ingenuity, Mr. Menon.
Okay, we're going to call on our esteemed town council, Adam Costa. Adam, one of the things we're kicking around mostly is the whole idea of having one override, one number, versus having two numbers, and kind of bounce back a little bit what we're going to call it and what it's going to look like. But tell us your experience so far doing the research about what towns have available to them, and maybe whether or not you have a sense. I was going to ask, you know, where are other towns at? What are people thinking they can do or should do?
So Jen, I'm having a bit of trouble hearing. I think I made out most of that, but if he could just repeat the last question. Is the question what other towns are doing with respect to overrides?
Yes.
Yes, I kind of want to get my thumb on that. You know, where are the people at? Other intelligent people needing to do something with their town. Where are they at?
Sure. So, you know, I joked, and it's really no joking matter, but I joked to colleagues and clients last year that it was the year of the override, because I've been doing this is my 20th year, and I had never had quite so many overrides myself or us as a firm as I had last year. And candidly, I suspect that the upcoming town meeting season may surpass the experience I had a year ago. So in some respects, that's not a surprise, because we know the challenges of municipal budgeting, and we know availability of state aid, and we know the financial challenges of the day. And so I'm not surprised that there are anticipated to be as many overrides as I think that there will be in the coming months. You know, in terms of how municipalities are going about overrides, there's always a bit of an effort, I think, to think outside the box and try and be creative, but there's also there's that on the one hand, and then on the other hand, I think that there is just a general concern that when we're dealing with overrides and this sort of two-part process involving both town meetings and the voters at the ballot, and because the process is so stringently regulated by statute, there's also a concern that because it has to be done just right, thinking outside the box carries with it some risks. In fact, I just had a conversation with the lead general counsel for the Division of Local Services with the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. I've actually had multiple conversations with him in the past couple of weeks, and they've all been about overrides and different approaches. And it just reminded me in the course of my conversations with him, I have respect for him, I have respect for DLS, they are a constant help to me, but in posing some unusual questions, I was not quite instilled with confidence that the answers to those questions were written in stone. In fact, I got the sense that there may be workarounds in some instances, and to the extent there's not a workaround, that there may be different ways to interpret a specific requirement, and whether there's a way to accomplish this objective, whether there's multiple ways to accomplish that objective. So municipalities are trying to think differently about how they approach the situation. So far, in the communities that have proceeded far enough to begin to develop or to have developed an override ballot question, what I've seen is that they're although they discuss multiple different options, where they tend to land is with really what we've seen as tried and true, and that is something relatively simple, a general purposes override or a categorical override, as opposed to something that is more specific, like a departmental override or an override that deals with specific programs or specific services being offered by the town. There has been discussion of tiered overrides or multi-year overrides. There's been discussion of stabilization fund overrides, and again, I'm happy to talk about all of those things, and those are all available tools to you. But if you're asking what my experience has been, at least in these past couple of months, it's been that those things are all discussed, and then where the communities are landing is with something more traditional, something that they're confident the voters will understand, that the voters have maybe been presented with before, and it won't be too confusing, and therefore maybe increases the odds of passage.
Okay, questions for Adam? I think Renee had some.
Yeah, hi, Adam. Where do I talk?
Talk into that.
I don't know.
I can hear you quite well.
Okay, good. Can you talk about just the general do's and don'ts in terms of what this tri-board, the membership of this tri-board can do in terms of informing and educating the public about an override, and also collecting feedback from the public about an override prior to town meeting?
Sure.
Like polls, survey, that kind of social media stuff?
Sure. So there are various restrictions, probably far beyond the scope of what I can talk about off the cuff. I'll admit when, and I suspect that she told you already, when Jen had first asked me to attend a meeting on Tuesday, March 11th, Tuesday being March 10th and Wednesday being March 11th, I guess I didn't read the Tuesday, and I put it in my book for tomorrow. And so I was hoping to be, if not physically present at your meeting, then at least in front of my computer, where I could have some resources at hand and I could cite chapter and verse, because I'll be candid, I don't think any attorney really has all this stuff memorized. It's far too complex, and instead I'm in my car having just stepped out of another meeting. So I can't quote chapter and verse for you, but what I can tell you is that there are a number of guidance documents that have been issued by every different agencies, Office of Campaign Finance, and by the AG's office, concerning everything from conflict of interest implications to finance implications associated with what can be viewed as campaign activity in campaigning for the passage of an override, or against, for that matter, the passage of an override. And so I have multiple guidance documents that I can share with you through Jen, and I can even put blurbs together, or I can direct you to specific provisions within these documents that will give you some very specific guidance as to what you can and can't do, painting with a very broad brush and speaking in just general terms, you have some ability certainly to engage in an informational campaign, so long as you're not utilizing municipal resources to do so. But you're very restricted with respect to any advocating for or against a specific override question. And there is a statute that some communities have adopted. I don't think you've adopted it in Lunenburg, that allows you to issue sort of a one-page summary to the voters with respect to override questions. You have to have adopted the specific statute. Again, I don't think you've done so. I've come across this issue in recent years in a number of different communities. Opinions are strong as to whether it's a benefit or a detriment to have adopted the statute, because once you've adopted the statute, you're obligated to comply with it and to provide this informational guidance, which of course comes at a cost. But if you've not adopted the statute, you don't have the option of sending the informational guidance by mail in the form that is prescribed by the statute. But there are other things that can be done in terms of informational meetings, for example, or as I said, informational campaigns. I do think I have some guidance on the use of social media. I'll have to dig that up. That's obviously a newer question. Some of these guidance documents I'm referring to are 20, 25 years old, and social media wasn't the thing 20 or 25 years ago, but it has become a thing, of course, in more recent years. But I think I do have some guidance, maybe through the listserv or otherwise, that speaks to the use of social media for distributing information. So I can get that information to you through Jen as well.
Okay, Adam, I was thinking more about collecting information, like are we allowed to put something like a poll or survey on the town's Facebook page or social media?
I think that you are. I think that there is a distinction between circulating information, pro, con, or otherwise, about an override, as opposed to gathering information as you would be able to do in any other context, and use that to make informed decisions. And I feel as if there's something in one of these guidance documents that talks about that. I'll try and dig it up for you, but I do believe that you're permitted to do that.
Okay, and can we use PAC?
Cable access, PEG.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find out.
Okay. And should I just keep going? You may not know this since you're sitting in your car. Some of the logistics about the timing. So in terms of the actual number, it does not need to be in the printed warrant, but just in the motion? Is that allowed?
That's correct. So one of the, and I suspect, and this may be something that you raised 2 hours ago, and I apologize if I'm telling you things you already know, or if I'm repeating discussions that have already been had. But as you might know, but I think it's sometimes lost on voters who aren't as familiar with Proposition 2.5 or overrides or debt exclusions. The Proposition 2.5 process is a two-part process with sort of defined roles. There's the role of town meeting, and there's the role of the voters at the ballot box. And town meeting's function is nothing more than to appropriate the monies. They can do so in a contingent manner. They can do so after an override is passed, if you go to the ballot box in advance of town meeting. But it's simply an appropriation vote, as opposed to the actions of the voters at the ballot box, which is to increase the levy limit by virtue of passing the override. So the appropriation article at town meeting, because that's all it is really treated no differently than any other appropriation article. It can be structured on the warrant as a general appropriation, and then the motion can be crafted to be specific as to dollar amount.
Okay, and just for the public and for future, if someone watches the recording, the number in the motion needs to match the number in the ballot question.
That's correct.
And I think if I did the math right, our ballot question has to be the ballot question language has to be turned into the town clerk April 11th, I believe.
Yes,
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, 35 days prior to the election.
Okay. So, yeah, if I did that right, so April, just for everyone to know, April 11th.
Drop that date. That's to the town clerk. That's not a vote in the
Yeah.
evening. That's to the town
Yes.
clerk. Business hours.
Yeah. And then if the question, if the appropriation passes at town meeting, but the ballot question fails, we can bring it back to a special election, correct?
You can. So you have, and I'm actually, although I'm sitting in my car, I'm not driving. So I'm actually looking at the DLS guidance, and so they have a handy chart. It's Appendix D to the Proposition 2.5 guide, and it provides for different sequences. One of which is a contingent appropriation followed by an election in towns, and so in the event that the question fails. Then the question can be presented at another election so long as that occurs prior to September 15th for appropriations that are made at the annual town meeting.
Yeah. Does it still have to be given to the town clerk 35 days? Is that still? Because if it does, then that's 3 more attempts.
Yeah, 35 days each time, Adam, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's 3 more attempts.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Microphone.
Microphone.
Attorney Constant, you had indicated that we can't campaign in favor, but if we are sitting as a school committee, we can say that we favor the passage of an override, correct?
Did you get the question, or do you want to repeat it?
I did. So yeah. So certainly, whether you're obviously all of you as elected or appointed members of municipal boards, sort of wear 2 hats, right? You wear your official hat, and then you have a separate hat that you wear as a resident. You don't forfeit your rights, whether as a resident or a member of a board or commission or committee, to make your position known. It's really the issue of whether you're campaigning for that position by using municipal funds or municipal resources, or somehow trying to get the vote out in favor or opposed, depending upon where you land on the override question. That's when it becomes problematic. But yes, you're entitled to take positions as individual officials.
Okay, so here's my question. If we are not allowed to say, like, people should come out to support this, we're allowed to say that, we're just not allowed to, like, raise money to hire a bus. How do we handle it as a member of the school committee where all of the kids, or almost all of the kids, can't vote? So, like, for example, tomorrow in the afternoon, we're meeting with parents and boosters for sports about what they can do in terms of helping people understand the issues and support an override and what it will look like if the override doesn't pass. I will have to tell them, because the town meeting rules require, that they have to bring a sponsor, and that person has to be an eligible voter in the town. Does that count as a get out the vote message that is improper under the law?
I don't believe that it does, and you know, I hate giving these off-the-cuff opinions because it can be difficult with nuanced questions like that. I would like to cross-reference it against the Office of Campaign Finance guidance. I'm looking, because I don't have all that guidance in front of me, but I do have the Proposition 2.5 guide, and there is a section on campaign activities that addresses the prior question that you just asked, or that was just asked, and maybe touches upon what you just said. So what it says here, I'm just going to read it verbatim. It says the law regulates conduct and not speech. Thus, while local officials can take a position on an override or exclusion question and can speak in favor of or in opposition to it, they cannot spend public funds or use public resources such as personnel, supplies, and facilities to promote or oppose the question. Public employees may work on an override question or exclusion campaign on a volunteer basis on their own time in any capacity other than fundraising. They may also make personal contributions to political committees established for the purpose of promoting or opposing a particular ballot question. So in your instance, I think that you're just providing information. You're not taking a position. You're certainly not using municipal resources. So my off-the-cuff opinion would be that would not run afoul of the law. But again, I'd like to look more closely and be sure that there's nothing more specific within the guidance that would raise a red flag.
Adam, just piggybacking off that, I think if I recall, OCPF, if you call them with questions, they're fairly good about dialing in on a specific scenario for specific advice, right?
They are, and in fact, the very next paragraph here in this guide I'm reading from says, the Office of Campaign and Political Finance is responsible for administering and enforcing campaign finance law. It refers to the website and says that it provides guidance about the application of the law. It refers to the 2 interpretive bulletins, which I was not too far off. One's from 1991 and one's from 1992, so they're about 35, almost 40 years old. But yes, they also provide the telephone number here and say specific questions should be directly directed to the office. And yes, they will provide assistance and guidance. But they may do the same thing I'm doing and tell you that they're not going to give you they know the stuff inside and out because it's what they specialize in, so they likely know it a bit better than I do, but offhand without having to reference materials. But they may also take a matter under advisement and give you an opinion a day or 2 or 3 later once they've had an opportunity to research it.
Okay, anything else for Adam? All right, get some rest. Going to be a busy season. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam.
Sure, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. It is 9:45, and I know all of you go to very late meetings and you don't need any extra one. My opinion, you vote me down if you don't agree, but I don't think you're going to get anything much more accomplished tonight. You've aired out the issue of 1 versus 2 and the pros and the cons of both. You've listened to these discussions of, level services plus or core services and some of the language. I made a recommendation that each committee appoint somebody to talk about language and how that messaging could be done, and I'd encourage you to do that. Short of that, I would like to pick the next meeting, since we all agreed that you could be done by the end of March. And, hold on one second. And that we have to be done I have to have the number to Kathy by the 11th of April. So we have a window there of that first week, and I would suggest maybe April, is that like the 2nd or something?
I prefer to have the chair discuss the next meeting,
Well, and I respect that, Chris. I'm just going to say that if you have to have it all ready and to Kathy by April 11th, then you guys can set your next meetings individually, but I was thinking that the TriBoard would come together and that hammer out where you're at, 1 or 2 in number, and then be ready to give that number to Adam to put together. My opinion.
I think we can work out
Microphone.
The one thing I'd like to do, because we're all together and because the open meeting law is ridiculous and dumb, is I would like to nominate the people to be on this subcommittee to talk about messaging. Because if we don't do that now, we won't meet until the 18th, and then that's just too slow. It won't work.
Okay.
So I would look for a motion of the school committee to nominate anybody who would like to do this.
I nominate Mandy Gilman.
Apparently it's Amanda.
All in favor of Mandy Gilman? Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go.
I won't be there on Thursdays.
Okay, well, you accomplished what you needed to accomplish.
Messaging. If we want to have a messaging meeting and we want to do it for the 18th, then I'll nominate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We meet next 18th.
Before the 18th, so I'm only hesitating because Caesar's gone until the 14th.
Yeah.
So,
You don't have to do that tonight. Anthony just thought it was easier for him because he's got his committee all together.
Yeah.
He's got a quorum. That doesn't have to be done. But what about picking a meeting date?
Is it possible we could post something that we voted, we took a straw poll or something about the override to give us some official...
Like a kickoff message kind of thing?
Yeah. From the 3, the 3 chairs could do it. It wouldn't have to be,
I think that's a little slippery slope. That could be perceived as a vote.
Yep. Why is that vote problematic? I mean,
It's not a vote.
You didn't vote.
We didn't vote.
No, we
I mean, the meeting's not over, we can still
and we
vote.
discussed.
I know.
We can take votes, right, as individuals.
I mean, we can take a vote then if that's what we need.
Okay, so if the school committee wants to put out I just think, I would personally think we need to put out a press release that says, this is, maybe not a press release, but something.
We didn't vote.
Put out minutes.
All right, so how about we vote?
Yeah,
Okay, so can we
Which is-
vote?
Okay,
is a little gray.
okay, so how about, so what was
My intent is just, as I said at the very beginning of this meeting, if we do not start messaging that these
So
boards are all
why don't-
together and supportive of in general, talking about an override in order to preserve or
Why don't you
restore
make a motion?
services.
Make a motion so we can take a vote and then the message can be created.
What would my motion be?
What?
What would my motion be?
Each
Yeah,
committee.
I'm confused. So we're taking a vote, official vote that we would be supporting.
An official vote that an override is necessary.
Okay, so to move forward,
No, to move forward.
the ballot, that's fine.
Putting an override on
I
the
wouldn't
ballot.
say that. I think that's
Yeah,
the
that
select board's
steps
decision.
on.
That is the select.
That we support,
That we support.
that we ask the select board?
That we ask the select board, I think works.
If you guys don't want to do it together, I think I'll bring it
No, I
up
think
next
there's
week.
value in doing it, and then it's done, and then we know where we are, and it's
Yeah.
official, because we're meeting.
Yeah, it will be an accomplished thing that we do today.
We
so-
actually, yeah.
And you could use language like need.
Yes.
We need.
If
So-
we announce things,
So-
and people start going, well, how much? What's going up? We don't have the answers. I don't know.
I would like to say,
Now,
I
they're
am
gonna be
a little
watching this,
hesitant.
right?
They're already asking that.
I'm a
They
little
do have
hesitant to
full
take a
board.
vote without the chair of the select board. I would like to, I agree.
Okay.
And we have a meeting on Monday.
Okay.
So I'm just.
Yeah,
I'm okay with saying, we met and even saying, please.
could we put out something, Jen, that just says the tri-board continues to meet? There was ample discussion about.
I think that my personal suggestion is that you all have your own platforms.
Okay.
Message your message.
Right.
So there is nothing wrong with each one of you going home and messaging that the tri-board met this evening. I think I share the hesitancy around A, representing a straw poll, B, the select board has not gone through the budget line by line yet, and Cesar Nizzolo is not here. So
Yeah, no,
those
no,
are
I don't
all
wanna-
three big things, but I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with each of you reporting and copying and pasting and sharing that.
Okay. I would hope that at some point.
Yes.
We might be able to say.
Yes.
As three boards, I don't mind the school committee messaging, but I do think the select board is the end, going to choose the number. So in whatever way the select board feels appropriate, I do think it would be nice as a town to be able to say, these three committees have been meeting together, we have discussed this, we've spent this many hours,
Yeah.
I
I completely agree, Mandy, and I think that, recognizing that Caesar is doing his military service right now, he's not off on vacation.
Yeah.
It is not great timing that he's away.
Yeah, no,
But
I mean,
think
it's
as
not
soon
his-
as he gets
it's not
back,
fault.
which he is back this weekend.
Yeah.
From his National Guard service, I think that we will be able to do that. I
Okay,
just
and if
feel
Caesar just
comfortable
decides
waiting.
that just the chairs want to do it, that's something we've done before as well. The chairs could just say,
I suspect the ledger is watching this. And will put out something that says we had a straw poll and everyone in attendance
that's
agreed
fine.
that.
Excellent. So what about getting together as this group before the 11th? So that we can get a number that we'll be able to get to
I think
Kathy.
the three chairs of the committees meet pretty regularly, so I think that they could likely pick not me, when Caesar gets back, when they meet, I think they could likely pick
So
a
the
meeting.
three chair get together with Jen, I guess, and figure out when this board can meet again.
I think we can get together by email. Everybody, we don't need more meetings. Email, please.
Yeah, last time we
If
picked
it's-
a date, it didn't work.
Yeah, if it's just a date,
Hence
just send an email.
Wednesday
I don't want to have a
11th.
meeting for an
To
email.
that point, I'm just going to jump in because I would be remiss to not. People need to respond to scheduling polls relative to emails. That was really difficult and was a waste of taxpayer funds.
I would like to make a motion to end this meeting.
Well, then you're going to close out your committee.
We had
Oh, sorry. Oh, Lord. Actually, I'm out.
Yep, public comment, we have, on the agenda, we have time for some more public comment. Public comment? Yep, go
Yeah.
right ahead. Yep. Hang around, Mr. Scalabrini, if you can.
actually not feeling well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I went home yesterday.
I got it, Tony.
Stay in there as long as I can.
Okay, thank you much.
Hey, I just wanted to make some public comment. speaking as a parent, I want to state that the schools are not starting this process on equal footing with the town. I know for a fact that there were new hires on the town side last year. As long as we're doing town and school, like this sheet is showing. And I know this is probably just a sketch to get an idea, but when I look at this and I see D is talking about just municipal service added, and it's spelled out what those services are, and then the highest tier on this initial proposal is the school restoration budget with literacy and then XYZ. I just want to point out what XYZ is. XYZ is the English teacher and part-time music teacher to ensure there's enough time on learning in the high school and middle school. It is an assistant principal. It is a literacy coach. It is an assistant business manager. These aren't XYZ items to me. And so when I'm listening and I'm thinking about tiers, and the restoration budget for the school is put as the very top tier and the, well, maybe, I'm offended for little kids, not mine. She's fine. She's going to be great, regardless of what you guys do. I'm sure of that. I will take care of that myself. But these kids that can't read, they are not going to be served by having two tiers. So when we're talking about messaging, we can start there. But when we go and we talk about having a one-level override and a second-level override, maybe we should say for that first-level override, so we know how ridiculous this really is, you know, for us confused people out on the streets that aren't involved. We're going to try to add a half a shift of a fourth shift of a fire department. We're going to try to add half of a new assistant town manager. We're going to try to add half of, wait for it, half of an interventionist for reading and math, a half of a kindergarten professional, half of a world language teacher, half of a teacher and a half of a paraprofessional for bridge, a half of an English teacher, a half of a part-time music teacher, a half of an assistant principal, a half of a literacy coach, and a half of an assistant business manager. Then that will tell people how stupid it is to do that and how important it is to actually go for that roughly $3 million. That's on average $663 per household.
$636
$636
annually.
Okay. I just wanted to point that out before I leave tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sticking it out.
You're welcome.
Anybody else on public comment? Anybody online for public comment?
Yeah, there's no hands raised, but we can't hear anyone on Zoom anyway.
Okay, we tried our best. Okay, Chris, you want to close out your committee?
Rogers.
Entertain a motion to adjourn the finance meeting.
Second? Oh, I mean, so moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Okay, and somebody from the schools, since,
Can I get a motion for the school committee to adjourn?
So moved. Emily, can I?
Oh, second. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Make a motion to adjourn the select board at 9:53 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
all right, and the tri-board is adjourned at 9:53, 10:50.